to the online presentation.
Dear students, Assalamu alaikum. I hope all of you are very well in this pandemic situation. Welcome to my today's lecture. Here presenting myself, Sonia Yasmin, lecturer, Department of Agriculture, Milestone College.
Today, I am going to discuss about chapter number 3, section number 4. The topic of my today's lecture is sericulture technology, which is related to silk production. First of all, you should keep in mind about learning outcome. At the end of this lecture, you will be able to know about the definition of sericulture, what is silkworm, the life cycle of silkworm, the steps of sericulture technology, the economic importance of sericulture. First of all, we have come to know about the definition of sericulture, which is very much important in your exam. In your exam, there may be a question, what is sericulture or what do you mean by sericulture? Here is the definition. Sericulture or silk farming is the rearing of silkworms for the production of silk. Although there are several commercial species of silkworms, Bombay's Mori is the most widely used and intensively studied silkworm. Sericulture has become one of the most important cottage industries in a number of countries like China, Japan, India, Bangladesh, Korea, Brazil, Russia, Italy and France. Today, China and India are the two main producers, together manufacturing more than 60% of the world production each year. Bangladesh Sericulture Research and Training Institute, that is BSRTI, is situated in Rajshahi and doing its duty from 1977. Here is the year 1977 is very much important for your MCQ question, and also BSRTI, the elaboration of BSRTI is also very much important, which is Bangladesh Sericulture Research and Training Institute. While talking about the previous topic, sericulture technology, I told you before, among all the commercial species of silkworm, Bombay's Mori is the most widely used. Bombay's Mori is the scientific name of silkworm. While writing in the exam paper the scientific name, you should underline both parts of this name. Without underlining, you will get 0. So, you have kept in mind that while writing in the scientific name, you should obviously underline the two parts of this name. Now, the most important part of this lecture, silkworm life cycle. So, let's see about the silkworm life cycle. Before talking about silkworm life cycle, you have to point out about the 4 stages of silkworm. First of all, egg. From egg, then next larva, then next cocoon, and after that adult moth. So, in your exam, this is also very important. In your exam, there may be a question, what are the stages of silkworm life cycle? Then you should keep in mind there are four life cycles: egg to larva to cocoon, and then after that adult moth. So students, here you can see the silkworm life cycle, the diagram or flow chart of silkworm life cycle. First of all, the female moth lays many tiny eggs on above of the mulberry leaves. After that, a teeny black caterpillar hatches out of its egg. After that, the caterpillar eats mulberry leaves and grows bigger and bigger. It goes through 4 molds. After that, the caterpillar spins a cocoon of silk threads around itself. After that, inside the cocoon, the caterpillar changes into a pupa. Here, from the left side, people viewed the silk threads inside the cocoon and its waves is to silk cloths. On the other hand, the pupa changes into a cloth. The moth comes out of the cocoon, and after that the adult moths mate with each other, and after that female moth lays many tiny eggs. This is a continuous process, and silkworm life cycle is a continuous process. Continuously this process can be done. Now the most important part of this lecture. What are the steps of sericulture technology? There are four main steps of sericulture technology. First of all, growing and management of mulberry plant. Secondly, collection of silkworm eggs and larva rearing. Thirdly, environment of the larva rearing house. And finally, the mechanism of silk production. Now, I am going to discuss about the description of the steps of sericulture. First of all, growing and management of mulberry plant. At first, about climate. The ideal temperature should be between 24 and 28 degrees centigrade with relative humidity of 65 to 80% and sunshine duration of 5 to 12 hours per day. Mulberry can be grown in a rainfall range of 600 mm to 2500 mm. Under low rainfall condition, the growth is limited and requires supplemental irrigation. On an average, 50 mm once in 10 days is considered ideal for mulberry. Now, about soil. Slightly acidic soils 6.2 to 6.8 pH, free from injurious salts and ideal for good growth of mulberry plant. Saline and alkaline soils are not preferred. I again say saline and alkaline soil are not preferred. Okay. Then after that, mulberry varieties. What are the mulberry varieties? Irrigated, Canava 2, MR2, and next Rainfed, S13, S34. First of all, about the preparation of mulberry plant, which is very much essential for silk production, also for silkworm, because silkworm larva lives on mulberry leaves. Here, mulberry is mostly propagated through cuttings. Cuttings may be planted straight away in the main field itself, or nursery may be raised and sprouted and rooted. Saplings may be planted in the main field. Care should be taken to make a sharp clean out at both the ends of cuttings without splitting the bark. Manufacturer or power operated mulberry cutter steam cutting machine is available for quick cutting or propagation material. This is the preparation of mulberry plant, and here in the right side the images of mulberry leaves and mulberry plants. At first, age of sapling. The saplings are ready for transplanting in the main field after 90 to 120 days of planting. Next, planting methods. There are three planting methods. First of all, paired row system. Then, number of cuttings. After that, time of planting. First of all, paired row system. Plant the cuttings or saplings at a spacing of 15 cm and 90 cm. Raise intercrops in the wider inter-row space. Next, secondly, number of cuttings per hectare 27,708, 60 cm into 60 cm, 12,345, 90 cm into 90 cm. Finally, time of planting. Plant during rainy season. Avoid planting during winter and summer months. Now, about planting of saplings. Plant the well rooted and sprouted saplings at a depth of 15 to 20 cm. earth up and level the area around the saplings. Gap fill during monsoon months. Next, about nutrient management, which is very much essential for any kinds of plant production. Apply fertilizer as per soil recommendation whenever possible. Apply the first dose of fertilizers 3 months after planting. Follow subsequent fertilizer application after each leaf harvest and pruning. Now, next, methods of irrigation. Ridges and furrows method is the most efficient method of irrigation. Comparatively, requires less amount of water. The furrows serve as drainage channels during heavy rainfall. Now, the most important point is weed management. As post-emergence application, use paraquat at the rate of 2 to 3 liter per hectare. Spray glycol 7.5 ml with 10 grams of ammonium sulfate per liter of water as post-emergence application. A total of 600 liters of spray fluid is required per hectare. This is all about weed management. Now, come to the point, planting. About planting, there are two types. One is bottom planting, another is middle planting. About bottom planting, the plants are cut at ground level, leaving 10 to 15 cm slump above the ground. The type of pruning is done once in a year. I again say once in a year. This type of pruning is done. Now, secondly, middle pruning. The branches are cut at 40 to 60 cm above the ground level. After bottom pruning, subsequent cuts are made at 45 to 60 cm height. This is all about planting. Now, about harvesting. There are three types. One is leaf picking. Individual leaves are harvested with or without petiole. Leaf picking starts 10 weeks after bottom pruning and subsequent pickings are done at an interval of 7 weeks. Next, branch cutting. The entire branches are cut and fed to the worms before the topping is done to ensure uniform maturity of the lower leaves. Next, whole shoot harvest. The branches are cut at ground level by bottom pruning. Shoots are harvested at an interval of 10 to 12 weeks and thus 5 to 6 harvests are made in a year. Now, about time of harvest. It is preferable to harvest the leaves during morning hours. Morning hours, this point is very much important for a MCQ question. And now, preservation of leaves. Use leaf preservation character or wet gunny bags to store the leaves or cover the bamboo baskets with gunny bags to keep it cool and fresh. Now, collection of silkworm eggs and larva rearing. First of all, in the first stage, the skilled workers in breeding center try to artificially breed silkworm. After breeding, the female moths are kept in blotting paper and covers it by cellulose, and then female moths start laying eggs. Next, second stage. In this stage, eggs are properly reared and then larvae grown. 60% humidity and 25% moisture required for silkworm eggs to hatch. After becoming larvae, the farmers collect larvae, then start caring until formation of cocoon. The newborn larva is kept in rearing tray, which is made by bamboo leaf. When chopping, mulberry leaves are given to it. This larva is called caterpillar. Newborn larvae are 3 mm in length. Body is covered by soft hair. Body color is ash or brown. Molting occurs 4 times in larva stage. This is all about second stage. Here presenting the two images of silkworm eggs. One is and another is silkworm larva. Here on the mulberry leaves silkworm eggs are gathered, and another is from the eggs silkworm larva come out and can live with eating mulberry leaves. Now, most importantly, the larvae should be reared in the larva rearing house. What are the environment of larva rearing house? Number 1. Separate house is ideal for rearing of silkworm. Secondly, the rearing house should have sufficient number of windows to permit cross ventilation. Thirdly, provision should be made to make it airtight for proper disinfection. Here presenting the images of larva rearing house. In the left side, this image has been shown the inside part of the larva rearing house. Here we can see that mulberry leaves are kept on the shelves, and the right part of the image is the outer part of the larva rearing house. These are the images of larva rearing house. Rearing house has to be built in such a way to provide optimum temperature of 26 to 28 degrees centigrade and RSO or relative humidity of 60 to 70% for the growth of silkworm at minimum operational cost. Now, what should be avoided and what should be ensured? Should be avoided, these points are damp condition, stagnation of air, direct and strong drift of air, exposure to bright sunlight and radiation. Another is should be ensured an equable temperature and humidity, good ventilation. Here are some other points about environment of larva rearing house. Rearing house should face east and west direction. Rearing house should have facilities to maintain the required environmental condition. Growing house around rearing house has to maintain favorable environment. Now, rearing house should be built depending on the brushing capacity and the method of rearing. Other points are rearing house should have a main rearing hall and 480 square feet area is required for rearing 100 deers. These are the important points of environment of larva rearing house. Now, some other points of larva rearing house. One is preparation of rearing house. Rearing room is to be kept ready after disinfection at least 3 to 4 days in advance of commencement of rearing. Preconditioning of the rearing house is essential, that is arrangement of rearing appliances and provision of essential environmental conditions 1 day in advance. Another point is preparation for brushing. Before commencement of each rearing, the rearing equipments and rearing houses must be thoroughly washed and disinfected with chlorine dioxide. Chlorine dioxide is sprayed on equipment walls, roof and floor uniformly to destroy the disease-causing organism. The room should be kept closed for about 24 hours after disinfection. The doors and windows should be kept open at least for 24 hours before commencement of rearing to avoid traces of disinfection. These are all about preparation for brushing. Now, the mechanism of silk production. Silkworm larvae are fed by mulberry leaves and after the fourth molt climb a twig placed near them and spin their silken cocoons. This process is achieved by the worm through a dense fluid secreted from its structural glands, resulting in the fiber of the cocoon. The silk is a continuous filament fiber consisting of fibrin protein secreted from two salivary glands in the head of each larva and a gum called sericin. I again say a gum called sericin, which cements the two filaments together. The sericin is removed by placing the cocoons in hot water, which frees the silk filaments and readies them hot reeling. This is known as the decumming process. I can say this is known as the decumming process. In your exam, there may be a question, what do you mean by decumming process? Then you can write down this process. The immersion in hot water also kills the silkworm pupa, which is very much essential for silk production. Here presenting two images. One is larva tries to build up cocoon, and the right side is larva has developed a cocoon, which is very much important for silk production. From this cocoon, silk is produced. Here presenting the stages of silk production. Number 1, the silk moth lays thousands of eggs. Secondly, the silk moth eggs hatch and the larva feed on the mulberry leaves. First, it weaves a net to hold itself. Next, it swings its heads from side to side in the way of the number 8. The silk solidifies when it comes in contact with the air. The silk is obtained from the undamaged cocoon by brushing the cocoon to find the outside end of the filament. The silk filaments are then wound on a reel. One cocoon contains approximately 1000 yarns of silk filament. The silk at this stage is known as raw silk. One thread consists of up to 48 individual silk filaments. Here is the images of cocoon. Here is the important image of cocoon. Moth tries to come out from cocoon. Finally, the economic importance of sericulture technology. First of all, the demand of silk cloths at home and abroad. The opportunities of export earnings through ready-made garments with silk yarn. More than 6 lakhs of rural people are engaged in sericulture for their livelihood. 4 batches cocoons can be obtained through scientific procedure. All members of the family may put their effort to add value to its chain. One of the most important income generating, poverty alleviating business with small capital for the rural people and artisans. Low risk, less vulnerable business to natural calamities. Waste silks are also used to produce satin cloths. Killed silkworm pupa are used as fish feed and poultry feed. Sericulture is possible in limited space 4 times in a year. Silk cloth is very comfortable and can be used in every season of the year. This is all about the economic importance of sericulture technology.
This is all about my today's lecture. In my lecture, I was discuss about chapter number 3, section number 2, that is sericulture technology. From this lecture, some important questions have come out. One is the definition of sericulture technology, another is the definition of silkworm and its scientific name, and the steps of sericulture technology, and finally the economic importance of sericulture technology. I hope you will understand this lecture, and if you have any question, then please inquiry me, contact with me, and please watch this video more attentively.
Thanks to all for patience hearing.